War has always been humanity's darkest invention. It destroys cities, families, futures, and yet, in its shadow, there is another battlefield rarely spoken about, the dinner table. When bombs rain from the sky, when farmland turns to mud, when markets are empty and animals are gone, humans will eat whatever it takes to survive. Some of these choices are heartbreaking, others are horrifying. But all of them reveal just how far we'll go when hunger claws at our ribs. Imagine you're living through the Second World War. The streets are in ruins, the ration cards barely cover a fraction of your needs, and the cupboards are bare. Hunger knows that you like an animal. What do? You look around your environment and see food in places you'd never imagine, things that in peacetime would turn your stomach, but in wartime could mean the difference between life and death. In the besieged city of Leningrad, people boiled wallpaper. Why wallpaper? Because back then, the paste used to stick it to the walls was often made from potato starch. Residents scraped it down, boiled it into a thin, gray soup, and drank it desperate for a few calories. Some boiled leather belts, old shoes, even book bindings, hoping the animal glue inside would transform into something edible. It didn't taste like food. It wasn't meant to, but it was survival. In Britain, the government told people to eat things they had once thrown away: sheep brains, cow udders, and pig's trotters. Housewives made mock banana by mashing turnips and flavoring them with banana extract because real bananas had disappeared from the island for years. Children who grew up in those times described tasting their first actual banana after the war as a near-religious experience. In Asia, during the Pacific War, hunger pushed people into even darker corners. Civilians in Japanese-occupied territories often resorted to eating insects, locusts, silkworm pupae, crickets. High in protein, yes, but at the time they weren't a delicacy, they were a symbol of desperation. In some regions of China, people dug up weeds and tree bark to grind into flour, baking loaves of bread that were green, bitter, and almost impossible to swallow. Yet they swallowed anyway. And then there are the stories too gruesome to ignore. In the concentration camps of Nazi Germany, starvation was a weapon. Prisoners scavenged anything remotely edible: grass, sawdust mixed with flour, even candle wax. There are records of people boiling bones found in the trash just to sip the greasy film that floated to the top. When food runs out, morality crumbles, and some camps even whispered of cannibalism, the ultimate taboo. Hunger makes monsters of us all. In the Pacific Islands, cut off by naval blockades, some communities turned to the ocean's strangest offerings. Seaweed, starfish, sea cucumbers, all boiled, chewed, swallowed. Fishermen collected jellyfish and tried to fry them, coating them with rice flour if they were lucky enough to still have some. Survivors would later admit the taste was revolting, the texture unbearable, but hunger silenced complaints. In post-war Korea, people who survived the devastation of the Korean War tell stories of grass porridge. Families would gather weeds from the roadside, chop them fine, boil them with a handful of rice if any rice was left, and serve the steaming green slurry to their children. Mothers told them it was healthy. In truth, it was all they had. Even in the United States, which never faced starvation on its homeland during World War II, rationing forced strange adaptations. Victory cookbooks encouraged families to substitute sugar with molasses, to stretch meat with oats or beans, to bake pies filled with vinegar to mimic the tartness of fruit. These recipes were patriotic, meant to free up resources for soldiers abroad. But for many, they were also reminders that even the richest nations bend under the weight of war. What makes these stories truly chilling isn't just the foods themselves, it's the psychology behind them. Imagine staring at a piece of boiled leather and convincing yourself it's soup. Imagine feeding your child weeds and telling them it's porridge. Hunger rewrites the brain. It strips away culture, preference, dignity. It reduces us to something primal: eat or die. And yet, there's also something deeply human here. Every revolting meal is a story of resilience. Of parents refusing to let their children starve. Of strangers sharing scraps with neighbors. Of entire cities learning to endure together. In the darkest nights, when the air smelled of dust and death, a pot of soup, no matter how foul, was a symbol of life. But make no mistake, These were not gourmet experiments, not adventurous cuisine. They were nightmares served on chip bowls and dented tin plates. The people who ate them did not do so with curiosity, but with tears in their eyes and emptiness in their stomachs. Today, when we scroll through restaurant menus, when we complain about a dish being too salty or too bland, it's almost impossible to comprehend the desperation of those times. Yet these disgusting foods carry a haunting reminder: civilization is fragile. Comfort is temporary, and under the shadow of war, even the unthinkable can become a daily meal. So the next time you sit down to dinner, take a moment to look at your plate. Think of the wallpaper soups of Leningrad, the mock bananas of Britain, the grass porridges of Korea. Think of the millions who learned that survival sometimes tastes worse than death. And remember that behind every war headline, beyond every battlefield, there is always a silent struggle at the dinner table where hunger forces people to eat the things history would rather forget.